Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. I am your host here, Philip, and yes, I know it has been a while, and for that, I apologize. I'm sorry. Yes, from the bottom of my heart, I'm very sorry. Um, a lot has been going on. I'm not going to make too many excuses, but obviously, life gets in the way, and because of that, I just haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to podcasting and putting out some episodes for you guys. But for once in a blue moon, I finally have a day off. So I figure, you know what? I'm going to sit down, park my butt right here in my chair, and I'm going to record a couple episodes for you guys today and hopefully have enough content for the rest of September and then going into October, November. Because I still need to finish out a couple of the movies that I saw in the summer, and then there were a few movies that I had the pleasure of seeing this month in September, and then I figure by the time we kind of get through all those movies, it will be like October and November. There'll be even more movies to do some reviews on. Um, so I'm definitely playing a little bit of catch up. But I appreciate all your guys' support and patience. It really does mean a lot. We are currently actually at 99 subscribers on YouTube. So we are just one person away from 100 subscribers with this podcast. And that is something that me and my brother dreamt about when we first did this podcast. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but I just found out the other day that this podcast has been a thing for the last 4 years. So just recently, this podcast had its fourth year anniversary. So I'm not going to do anything special for it. Like I'm not going to do a whole episode, but I just kind of wanted to touch upon it a little bit. Obviously, the podcast has gone through some changes, but the core vision and the message behind the podcast is still there. And even though it's just me, and unfortunately my brother cannot do it anymore, this podcast still means the same thing it does from when we first started it. And looking back at where we started to now, it definitely has been quite a journey, and I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart that has stuck by us from the very beginning up until this point. It means a lot. It's helped me get a little bit out of my comfort zone, get a little bit more onto the main stage. I never thought I'd sit here and be someone to record himself doing a podcast and doing something like this. It's an extremely humble setup. I'm using my iPad, I'm using my computer. This is not a very expensive and professional podcast. This is just a 26-year-old who is a nerd, loves all the stuff that you see behind him, and just loves talking about stuff that he's passionate about. And it went for my brother, but I kind of carry on that legacy for the both of us now. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it. And it's been a blast, and I'm just curious to see where this goes in the next couple of years, because we got a lot to look forward to. I mean, there's a ton of movies coming out for 2026 and then 2027, so probably towards the end of this year, I'll probably do a video, maybe just going over some of the top projects that I'm looking forward to next year. We got a lot of nerdy stuff, like a lot of DC, a lot of Marvel, so we are definitely going to be eating pretty good. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably tackle that later in the year and do something like that. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So we are continuing our summer movie review by covering probably one of the best films of the year, and if not, I think in my personal opinion, it is probably going to be the best film of the year. I mean, we still have Avatar, Fire and Ash. That's really, I think, the only other movie that can kind of compete. Fantastic Four, I mean, we'll discuss that. It was a great movie. I think comparing the two, though, I think Superman was definitely better. But, we still have Fire and Ash, and obviously the Avatar trilogy. I mean, it's just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they're just knocking it out of the water with, billions of dollars here, billions of dollars there. It's a great piece of cinema. So if any movie this year had to come close to Superman, it's probably going to be that movie, but we'll see. But yeah, we are talking about Superman. So this movie came out this year, 2025. More specifically, it came out in... Okay, cool. It's not going to tell me when it came out. Cool. It came out sometime in July. I think it was... I don't know. I don't know when. July 11th. Sorry. It came out July 11th of 2025. So we're going to go over some of the cast, some familiar faces, Some maybe not so much. We have David Corenswet as Superman. We have Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. We have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. We have Alan Tudyk as Gary. We have Bradley Cooper as Jor-El. We have Angela Safarian as Laura. Um, and that's pretty much it. We have Maria Gabriela de Fiora as the engineer. Um, let's see. We have Sarah Sampaio as Eve. Anybody else that needs a little bit of a shout out? Where's the guy that played? Trying to find the guy that played. What's his face? Uh, there he is. We have Skylar Gisondo playing Jimmy Olsen. We have Michaela Hoover playing Cat Grant. Um, and I'm trying to find. I mean, it's such a big cast. I'm trying to find like everybody that is involved that at least should be mentioned. We have Frank Grillo playing Rick Flag Sr. We have Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner. We have Isabella Marced playing Hawk Girl. We have Edie Gathigi playing Mr. Terrific. Um, and I think, we had Will Reeve playing an on the ground reporter. So I wonder if that's any relation to Christopher Reeve, which it probably is. So that's a nice little cool cameo right there. And I think that is overall pretty much it. So a lot of star-studded performers in this film, both playing superheroes and then background characters. So overall, pretty stacked cast. I mean, some surprising names such as like David Cornsweet. I'm not sure what he's acted in before Superman. But it was definitely kind of like a nice, refreshing, change of pace. I mean, Rachel Brosnahan, I mean, she's, I think, more well known for like the marvelous, like Mrs. Maisel or like that show on Amazon Prime. So she's definitely had some sort of acting career. He also starred in The House of Cards in 2018. Um, in the Netflix series. So he does have some background experience. But again, I mean, it's not a name that you associated with like Superman or like superheroes or something like that. So overall, great cast. Some up and comer and then some relatively heard of. So now that we kind of got that out of the way, now we're gonna go to some of our favorite things, and we're going to look at some of the critic scores because overall this film was definitely widely received in a more positive view. um, and we're just going to go through and think about what the three major players, so that's IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic, thought about the film. So we're going to start with IMDb. They gave Superman a 7.2 out of 10, which is about like a 70%. So overall, the way they do their critiques, it's an overall average film. It's just about passing, but not the best things since sliced bread. Um, just trying to see if they have anything on here. To summarize their review, IMDb says reviewers say that the new Superman movie has a fresh, hopeful tone, vibrant visuals, and a strong performance, particularly David Cornsweet as Superman and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The film is appreciated for its blend of humor, action, and emotional depth, as its respectful nods to classic Superman elements. However, criticisms include pacing issues, underdeveloped characters, inconsistent tone, and a lack of Superman's traditional invincibility. Some viewers feel the film relies too heavily on humor and side characters, detracting from the main story. Despite these criticisms, many see it as a promising start for the new DC universe. Um, I don't necessarily agree with this. I mean, I agree with the first part, but I think some of the other criticisms, such as like the pacing issues, underdeveloped characters, James Gunn did something a little different, when it came to superheroes. Instead of giving us like a whole new origin story about Superman, he was like, you know what? Everybody knows Superman. Superman has been around for decades. So why rehash the same origin story over and over again, where we could just start right into the middle of, yes, this character exists. This is what's going on. I mean, everybody around him, like his parents, his friends, his love interests, his villains, they are all very well established and have been around for decades. So why rehash the same thing over and over again when we could just start right in the middle of it? And I think that was the best choice that they could have made for this film. And of course, people that just don't really know Superman and don't really know superhero movies, of course, they're going to be confused because they're going to be wondering, like, oh, well, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? So definitely my only negative critique, and there is really only one negative critique that I have for this film, is that if you are not a superhero fan, if you are not a DC fan, and you're just going to watch this casually, they do a good enough job like explaining some of the background at the very beginning of the film, but you will be confused like who all these side characters are and who all these other superheroes are. So if you were just going, you know, to watch this casually, just take it with a grain of salt. And this film I think is definitely more made for like superhero nerds, and comic nerds, like people that already know the lore, they already know who these characters are, and they're just going to watch it. So definitely just take all that with a grain of salt. That is really my only negative. When it comes to this, I think Fantastic Four does a much better job when it comes to introducing like who the Fantastic Four are and like what their story is. Because it's kind of more of like an origin story, but not really. Um, but again, Superman, and again, I mean, Fantastic Four, yes, they've been around for decades as well. But unlike Fantastic Four, Superman just decided to kind of go in guns blazing, and it really did pay off for them. And I mean, we'll discuss that further on why it did so. Um, Looking at Rotten Tomatoes, we see that it is certified fresh with about an 83%, which is great. The popcorn meter for it is verified hot at about 90%. So overall, critics and audience do agree that Superman was great. Some of the critic consensus say that pulling off the heroic feat of fleshing out a dynamic new world while putting its champion's big beating heart front and center, this Superman flies high as a man of tomorrow, grounded in the here and now, which is a great way to summarize it. Audiences say that James Gunn brings back a timeless hero with Superman and gives us a four-legged scene stealer that we could rally behind, which everybody's talking about Krypto. So overall, critics and audiences agree that Superman is definitely a top-tier movie. Like I said, we got like an 83% and a 90%, which are overall great scores for the film. Finally, we have Metacritic, and Metacritic gives this movie about, where was it? About a 60, 68 out of 100, I think. Overall, very similar to IMDb. I mean, I just think these websites just do it differently compared to Rotten Tomatoes. But overall, all their scores are in the green, and all the scores are relatively positive. So again, we see across the board that IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic all are showing very positive reviews for this film. Now, before we move on to the pros and cons, which obviously won't take us very long because there's just more pros in this movie versus cons, I want to discuss the budget and then the box office report and see where Superman stands currently, because it should have officially left theaters by now because I believe it's already streaming on HBO Max. So looking back at Superman, we see that the budget for this movie was $225 million. So as of right now, I mean, we could do a second check to confirm. But we see that the budget for this movie was at $225 million. Okay. Currently, box office reports have it at $615.4 million. So this movie did make back its budget and times it by three, right? Now, looking at this, again, we could argue COVID, we could argue just the state of the movies and streaming services, and some of these superhero movies, we're not going to see them make the $1 billion or the 800 or the $900 million they used to make. I mean, unfortunately, a combination of, the COVID-19 pandemic and then also just streaming services taking off and people relying more on those than actually going to the actual theater. People just aren't spending the money that they were at the movies anymore. But with that being said, making $615 million, making $500 million, is still a great box office report. And again, making that budget back and timesing it by three, or theoretically, you made your budget back and then you times it by two, um, is definitely a great step. And it's a great step in the right direction. And again, this movie's importance was this is the so-called cinematic beginning of James Gunn's DC universe. Now we know that Peacemaker season 2 is part of James Gunn's DC universe. We know that Creature Commandos is part of DC universe. So this being the first official cinematic release of that universe, um, it did everything it was supposed to do right. And I mean, I remember going to see the movie, and it was relatively packed out when I saw it. So people definitely did show up for the movie. But like I said, unfortunately, a lot of people see it that opening weekend, maybe the following weekend, and then that's kind of it. I mean, there were a lot of movies that were coming out in July, so they had to compete against Jurassic World. They had to compete against Fantastic Four. So not all the attention was on Superman. Again, looking at all those three movies for the month of July, we could argue that Superman was the best one out of all those movies. But again, we're not going to see those big box office numbers that we used to see. But again, 615 million is still a great number to have for a box office report. Now, to wrap this episode up, we're going to go through everybody's lovely favorite section, and we're going to go through the pros and the cons of this movie. Now, I already went through my cons. Again, this movie, one of the cons for sure could be, if you are not a generic DC fan, if you're not a generic Superman fan, and you're just a casual movie watcher, and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to go see a movie, you will be relatively confused, and you might not have an idea of what's going on. My only rebuttal to that is, again, this movie I think is geared more towards the hardened veterans and like the nerds out there. So, take it with a grain of salt, if you do watch it. I mean, I don't think you can see it in theaters anymore. So, if you do watch it on HBO Max, take it with a grain of salt. Do a quick Google search, just kind of figure out, who the main characters are, when it comes to Superman, and go from there. But, however, I think at the end of the day, they did the right thing. Like I said, jumping off where they did. And, again, it's really only a con if you're just a casual fan, to be honest. My only other critique, and I've told this to my friends, family, is that there's one scene with the CGI when it comes to Hawkgirl that doesn't look the greatest. That is the only complaint that I have with this movie. And this movie came out in July, and it's now September. And that is the only complaint that I ever found with the movie. So, as far as negative critiques, I would say it's not for the casual moviegoer. And the CGI with Hawkgirl is a little iffy. But that is literally my only critiques and my only complaints about this film. Now we're going to get into all the pros and why this film is probably one of the best of the year, if not the best. So the first point is faithful to comic origins. So Gunn's vision brings Superman back to its idealist, hopeful roots with vibrant visuals and heartfelt storytelling that echoes classic comic book tones. This is absolutely true. We see that there is a lot of comic faith with the characters, as well as their costumes and just the origin of Superman, just the origin of all these other characters. So James Gunn's vision when it comes to his DC universe seems to be focusing more on like a comic accurate depiction, which is exactly what superhero and like nerd fans want. Fantastic Four also did something very similar. But seeing it come to life, in Superman, I think was fantastic. So people that love the comics and they love those type of origins are definitely going to be very happy with this film. David Corenswet's performance, his portrayal of Superman is praised for emotional depth and authenticity. He embodies the hero with warmth and stoicism, resonating with fans who missed a more humanized Man of Steel. That's 100% true. I mean, he definitely did his homework. I think it helps when you have a nerd playing a nerdy character. And you could tell that he really cared about his role. He really did his homework. He really bounced off ideas. With James Gunn, there's like a great clip that I've seen on TikTok about David Corenswet and James Gunn talking about Superman. And you could really tell that he was like all in for his performance. And he really does bring Superman to life. Like that is that is Superman like through and through. So he did a phenomenal job. The third point is Lois and Clark's chemistry. So Rachel Bronson's Lois Lane is sharp and modern, and her dynamic with Corenswet's Clark Kent is described as electric. Some even call it the best since Reeve and Kidder. They definitely have a great chemistry. They did phenomenal with the casting between the two actors. You could definitely tell, like, I mean, if you were watching that movie, you're just like, damn, like, are they a couple in real life? They definitely have what it takes to be the Clark Kent and the Lois Lane. And yeah, I mean, I would agree with people if they're calling it the best ever since Reeve and Kidder. Two phenomenal actors that gave us both phenomenal performances. So that's a lot of compliments and a lot to be proud of if people are comparing it to the best. Krypto the Superdog. Obviously, everybody loves Krypto. So Gunn adds his signature cuteness factor with Krypto, a terrier mutt who plays a surprisingly emotional role in the story. Krypto was absolutely phenomenal. Apparently, he's based off of James Gunn's dog in real life, which is super cool. And even though the dog is entirely CGI, he stole the show and he was just the heart of the performance. And you really did care about this dog. I mean, I remember seeing it with my mom, and she was like, "That was a CGI." I was like, "Yeah, that was CGI." Yeah, he definitely stole the show, and he was a great little sidekick to Superman. And maybe we'll see him again in Supergirl. So, oh. The last 2 points that we have here are strong supporting cast. So Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor and others like Nathan Fillion and Isabella Merced add charisma even if their roles are limited. That's obviously very true. The whole cast of the Daily Planet was just absolutely phenomenal and just added that little bit of like zing and charisma, like to Lois Lane and Clark Kent. The Justice Gang, with like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific, especially Mr. Terrific, he stole most of the show, for sure. Having that supporting cast of heroes around Superman was phenomenal. And again, Nicholas Hoult, I mean, he deserves like probably the award for one of the best acting performances like of the year. He was absolutely phenomenal. I think hands down he's probably one of the best Lex Luthors, if not the best Lex Luthor that we've had in the history of Superman, at least on the cinematic stage. Finally, obviously, we're going to go over briefly just the ratings that we see on some of the critic websites. So obviously, it's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with an 86% score. It is the most critically acclaimed live action Superman film in decades. So with that being said, I mean, the fact that you look at all these Superman films and the fact that it beats out Christopher Reeve's Superman, I'm actually curious just to see what his Superman is at, if they even have a rating for it. Let's see. See, I don't think that's. Oh, it's the Christopher Reeve story. Okay. I was looking for uh, Superman, like the original. Let's see. Hold on. See, interesting, because it says it has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then the 86 on the popcorn meter. So I mean, audiences overall enjoyed Superman 2025 better, but it seems like when it comes to the critics, it seems like the Superman movie, the original, beat out Superman of 2025. Yeah, because that had an 83%. This has an 88%. But again, overall, this movie is in competition with the original Superman movie from like 1978, as one of the best movies or the best Superman movies that we've seen in just cinematic history. So again, that is an extremely tremendous compliment to have, especially when you look back at someone like Christopher Reeves and just how much of a performance he gave as Superman. it definitely, again, is a great is a great compliment to have. Um, but that is going to do it today, guys, for our episode on Superman. So, with that being said, I mean, like I said, we already went over some of the cons. So when it comes to the pros, one of the more important things to take away is that it's faithful to the comics. So a lot of comic accuracy. David Corenswet does an amazing performance as Superman. The chemistry between Lois and Clark is phenomenal. Krypto is phenomenal. The supporting cast is phenomenal. And yeah, just go watch this movie. If it's still playing in the theater somewhere, somehow, definitely go watch it. If not, if you do have HBO Max or you could find somewhere to like kind of like pirate it and watch it, definitely give it a watch because it is a phenomenal film, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is the best film of the year, or if it does win that title. So yeah, but other than that, that is going to do it today, guys, for our episode on Superman of 2025. So, if you're wondering where you can find this lovely podcast to see more of my lovely face and hear my lovely voice, even though I'm just all stuffed up for some reason, I don't know why, you can find me on YouTube at Two Sons Podcast, as with O, not a U, because we are two brothers. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, all under Two Sons Podcast. Again, that is with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. Um, just follow us, or follow me, I should say. I'm so used to saying us because it's I still think of like Joey as like part of the podcast. Um, so follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Stay up to date when the videos drop, and yeah, go watch on YouTube. Listen to it, watch it. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, definitely follow on those socials. Stay up to date with those notifications, and I'll post something and you'll be like, oh hey, look, there's an episode out. Well, cool, and go give it a watch. But until then, guys, I hope you guys have a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening. Please be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Stay hydrated because that's very important. Enjoy the fall. I mean, the other day was like the first day of fall, so it's finally the fall. So if you're living in a state that gets the seasons and you can enjoy the fall, please enjoy it. For people that don't, like me, that lives in Florida. If not, just enjoy that pumpkin spice, enjoy everything nice, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye for now.